Daniel Harris is with us. Daniel, good morning to you. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. I'm confident to tackle the day ahead.
Okay, that's good. Well, I think there's a realistic chance that Leo Messi will be a Manchester United player. Tell me why I'm a fool, Daniel.
I don't know. I don't have any information, so I'm speculating. I think he'll probably go to Manchester City. It just seems to make the most sense in that they have the money to pay him. They have the means to do that within the rules, apparently, and he has a relationship with Pep Guardiola. So I think that is the most likely destination for him. I'd be fairly surprised if United were prepared to commit £1 million a week to pay his wages, because that would actually have to come out of the club's coffers, like in a way where City are able to do that via different kinds of sponsorship, it seems. I don't think United would be prepared to do that or be able to do that. And so, yeah, I think it's unlikely.
Could you not bundle a bunch of players and who all make about $1 million a week combined, like 5 or 6 of those first team squad players, and go, I like the cut of your jib, guys, but Leo Messi's coming in, so off you go. We'll take no money for you from another Premier League team just to free up the wage bill. And in fairness, no other club in the world is as well set up to wrestle the last bit of value out of having Leo Messi's image rights available to sell tractors in Ukraine.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense in various ways. Like, United need a right winger, but I don't think it'll happen, because I think that he'll want to pay. I think he'll want to play for Guardiola. He played his best football probably under Guardiola, and they know each other. I imagine they're still in touch. So, I mean, you could make a case for why he might come to United. If United shifted, as you say, they've got rid of Alexis Sanchez already. If they get rid of a few more players, then effectively you'd be swapping players that United didn't want for maybe the best player that there's ever been.
Yeah,
but
that sounds good.
Yeah,
Are you too heartsick? Are you too broken as a teenager when you had your heart broken to even allow yourself to dream of the possibility that Leo Messi might be yours, and then all of a sudden you see him going into the arms of your nearest rival? Is that what's happening here, Daniel? You're talking yourself down in case it might actually happen.
No, really, it's that. I've been hurt before. As a teenager, it was all good. I've been broken as an adult, so it's
worse.
It's fresher in the memory, but less formative. I mean, it's very easy to construct sensible arguments, as you have done, as to why Messi might go to United, but I keep coming back to the fact that he would want to play for Guardiola. My guess is also that City have been nurturing and tending to Messi over the last 5 years. Just in case he ever did decide to leave Barcelona, that they would be there to do that in the same way they did with Guardiola. And just City have modelled themselves on Barcelona. They have Barcelona people there. It just all is very tidy. And ultimately, at the moment, City are a better team than United as well. So obviously, you would say that if United were to sign Messi, then that would give them a good chance of being better than City. But if you were Messi, you probably wouldn't look at it that way. So I would like United to sign Lionel Messi. I mean, yeah, what a ridiculous thing to say that is. I mean, not as ridiculous as Lionel Messi playing for City. That's also ridiculous. But that just seems more likely to me.
Okay, well, look, I definitely hope that they're at least scrabbling down behind the Glazers' couch to see what change they can find to push into the table and go, come on, Lionel, it's Man United. Like, look at our history.
I can't buy any couches till the DFS sale is on.
Fair enough. Okay.
And which is to say that the DFS sale is always on, and they're still not doing it.
Fair enough. Okay. Let's do the Manchester United depth chart, which is the task at hand. Ordinarily, we start with goalkeepers at most of these big clubs, and it's fairly straightforward. Going backwards, Lee Grant, Sergio Romero, and then it gets interesting because I hadn't realised Dean Henderson had signed a new contract, making him one of the highest paid goalkeepers in the world. And it's like, why are they doing that exactly? Is it just to ward off interest from Chelsea and keep him happy? Because it's a lot of money to spend for a keeper who's going to be on the bench. Is there any risk that Dean Henderson is actually Manchester United's starting goalkeeper at the start of the season?
I am slightly confused by this one, I must say. And this is why. That ultimately United and De Gea are stuck with each other unless they know that someone wants to buy him. What United need to do is get the most from David De Gea. Now they might say, well, having someone to push him is the way to do that. But I think the way I would look at it is I really like Dean Henderson's mentality. Like he thinks he is good enough to be Manchester United goalkeeper right now, and I admire that. However, I haven't seen enough from Dean Henderson to make me think this guy's best is anywhere near David De Gea's best. And so what I would probably have done is I would probably have taken the money for Dean Henderson this summer on the basis that if he wasn't already at United, I don't think United would be trying to sign him. And I'm also concerned that United will have to generate money for players that they need to buy to make the team better from sales. So spunking Dean Henderson's wages instead of selling him for 50 or 60 million quid and then buying a defender or a midfield player with that money doesn't make that much sense to me. Even though I appreciate that it's good to have competition, you don't want to get into the kind of situation that England were in the late 70s and early 80s when they were literally playing Ray Clements and Peter Shilton in alternate games. I want David De Gea to play in as many games as possible. I want him to build up a rapport with his defenders. I mean, perhaps this is wishful thinking because at no point has he really shown signs of even being interested in dominating his defence. So, and I think that is something you could probably rely on Dean Henderson to do because he is more that kind of personality. So, I mean, I guess I said I didn't understand why they've signed Dean Henderson. I do, and one thing we've seen with United over the last bit of time is that rather than get rid of players, they're trying to sign them to contracts in a bid to drive up their price. And with players that people aren't too keen to get hold of, like Smalling and Jones, it actually and Rojo makes them harder to sell. But perhaps in the case of Dean Henderson, it might make him easier to sell because there'll still people be interested. However, the chances are that before signing that contract, Dean Henderson has not just been given assurances about a number of noughts on his payslip, but he's also been given assurances about the amount of football he's going to play. So I guess Sergio Romero is on the way out, and Henderson will be playing some games next season. I don't know if I think that is the right thing to do because, as I said, I'm not sure how good Dean Henderson is. And when I say I'm not sure how good Dean Henderson is, I mean that in two aspects. One, I'm not sure in that I need to see more of him. And the other one is I'm slightly dubious that he is as good as David De Gea. But if you play in goal in a really good team with a really good defence that United don't yet have, but might be looking to have, then you need a goalkeeper like Edwin van der Sar is adequate. And a goalkeeper like Edwin van der Sar, I can't remember that many brilliant games or brilliant saves that Van der Sar had. I can remember a brilliant one at Fulham in 06-07 when Ronaldo scored in the last 2 or 3 minutes, and that was a kind of win that set up United winning the league again. But I can't remember that many brilliant games that Edwin van der Sar had. But I also can't remember that many terrible mistakes that Edwin van der Sar had made. And perhaps Dean Henderson will mature into that kind of keeper because I'm not sure if he has the athleticism and the reaction speed to be the goalkeeper who makes miraculous saves like Peter Schmeichel and David De Gea.
Okay, that's fair enough. And you can see from a business perspective they're trying to boost value. I don't know if the business of football is similar to Irish football analysis, but frequently when somebody is out of a team, their reputation soars. So we've had various cause celebs all the way back to David O'Leary not being in Jack Charlton's team, and ever since then we've tried to find somebody for that role. We had Andy Reid for a while not getting in Giovanni Trapattoni's team, with Wes Hoolahan not getting in Trapattoni's team, and then not getting in Martin O'Neill's team. Maybe by not getting in the Manchester United team, the English media will go, oh, Dean Henderson, world-class goalkeeper, sign him Chelsea, pay whatever the money is, pay the 80 million quid, and suddenly Manchester United look like geniuses for locking him into a long-term deal. We shall see. Let's move on to the defence because David De Gea is definitely number one there. In terms of the defenders, there's about 12 defenders that count as being on Manchester United's books at the moment. The bottom of the depth chart has people like Marcus Rojo, Phil Jones, Eric Bailly, Chris Smalling. Do any of these see any game time next season, do you think?
It depends who arrives. I think that United, I'm sure that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer would like to sign a defender to play with Harry Maguire. So then your top two would be Maguire and the person that they may or may not sign. I also think that Ole planned last season to bring Axel Tuanzebe in, but he spent almost all season injured. He should be fit close to the beginning of the season. So if they don't sign anyone, then I think he's going to compete with Victor Lindelof to play alongside Harry Maguire, because the first thing about Victor Lindelof is not rubbish. He's not terrible, but he's not the level of centre-back that United would want to have and that United should have and United have had. And we saw it most recently against Sevilla. He is capable of playing well and he is solid enough, and you could do really well if the rest of the team was right. But those Tuanzebe, I think, will rival Lindelof for either the number 2 spot or the number 3 spot next season.
He won't go on loan, you think? If he's fit, he'll be at the club next season?
I would say he might go on loan if a new player arrives.
Right.
I'd be surprised if he went on loan if a new player didn't arrive. I think that Solskjaer would ideally want him to play with Maguire because he's a better partner. He's good on the ball. He's intelligent. He's strong. He's fast. He was captain of the reserve team and the age group teams, so he'll supply some leadership as well. So I think that the way that Ole has spoken about him I think it's clear that he thinks that he's good and he'd like him to have done more last season than he actually got to do. Then I think that, Smalling, Jones, Rojo are for sale. Smalling is a good player, and I was surprised that Roma couldn't find the money for him, but perhaps they will now that they've been bought. He did well in Italy, and of all the defenders currently on United's books, he is the best partner for Maguire, and by far, in my opinion. He obviously isn't good enough on the ball, but when it comes to the actual defending, he is by far the best of the rest.
So you'd have him ahead of Lindelof, really?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, especially because he can run fast and he has some recovery pace, and that is important in any defender, particularly when the bloke that you're playing next to doesn't. And I think one of the reasons United appear to be so keen to buy a centre-back to play on the left is that if you have a centre-back, if you sign a left-sided centre-back with pace, then you put Maguire on the right, and it opens up the pitch because it means Maguire can hit diagonal balls from right to left, and your left-footed centre-back can do likewise from left to right. But also, it means that the fullback on Maguire's side is Wan-Bissaka, and he has the legs and the pace to cover for Maguire's lack of pace, which you're not really getting with Luke Shaw when Maguire plays on the left. So I think that is what United are looking for. And Smalling, to me, offers more than Lindelof. But he was also, last summer, he was a sellable asset, and there weren't many of those. So they gave him to Roma on loan with presuming that he would do well at Roma because he's a good player, and then the deal would complete. United get some money. Bailly, I think, if they got a good offer for Bailly, they would probably sell him. But I think they're probably quite happy with him as 4th choice because, again, and even Rojo and Jones, Jones is mentally shot at United, but he's not, and people take the piss out of Jones with good reason, but neither him nor Bailly are terrible players, and their top level is quite a decent level. It's not quite the level that you would want for United, but it's quite a good level. The problem is that they're both injured all the time, and you never know when they're going to drop a bollock, and that is problematic. Particularly Jones now is old enough so that that's never going to change. But I still think that he could do a job at quite a few Premier League teams. Bailly is slightly different because Bailly is still quite young in football years. He's not played an awful lot of top level games. He didn't play that much. He got good quite quickly. But he's not particularly experienced. So Bailly needs games and he needs to play regularly. The problem is that it seems unlikely he's going to get the opportunity to do that at United, and anyway, he's injured all the time.
Well, so can I just, if you look back to various players who've left Man United and gone on to be good, why don't Manchester United loan out these players in the middle of a 4-year contract and give them a year to see if they are actually going to be any good? And try and recoup the value that way?
Because I think a bird in the hand, really, that if you get offered money for a player that you think is good enough, then you sell them because you want to reinvest the money in the team and you want that player off the wage bill. Whereas if United send a player on loan somewhere who's on big wages, they might still be stuck with the wages. And if the player gets injured, the player might get sent back, or the player might not do well enough, and the club might not want the player. So if the money that you get is enough, then you might just do that deal. I think the loan deals tend to be for younger players that you think need toughening up or need to learn the game, rather than players who are kind of in their mid-20s.
Yeah, I still just wonder if actually if Bailly went and played a season in the Premier League for anybody from Sheffield United down to Leeds, obviously probably unlikely to go to Leeds, but just say he played like 30 odd games, 35 games in the Premier League next season, and then United take him back and away you go, and it's worked. Henderson's a bit younger, obviously, but in centre back years, we've definitely heard experts say centre backs do not mature at senior level until they're 29 to 32, because you just have to have the experience. You've got to see the different challenges that different teams, particularly in the Premier League and in European football, offer you in terms of spatial awareness, your relationship with your fullback, understanding how the goalkeeper works. It's a minutes played. That's the good quality input to get good quality output. And how do you do that in training at Man United? You can't.
No. You definitely need to play games to improve. I think the thing with Bailly is that he's always injured, and if someone offered what United thought was good money for Bailly, they would take it, because you never know.
He's gone for the wage bill, and you've made some money back on the original investment.
They reinvest the money immediately, and you never know when he's going to get injured again.
Okay, well, let's move to the first choice back four. Aaron Wan-Bissaka, Harry Maguire, Victor Lindelof and Luke Shaw is the current first choice back four. Is that fair?
Yeah, for sure.
Is Brandon Williams going to be there next season, do you think?
I don't think so. There's a lot to like about Brandon Williams, but he's raw. And also, I think when Luke Shaw was injured, you saw the difference of not having a natural left footer on the left. Before Luke Shaw got injured, you were seeing quite a lot of link-up play between him, Martial, and Rashford in particular. And that kind of stopped when he got injured, because what happens is when you have a fullback who is playing on their natural side, it allows them to keep the width, and it means that the forward, the wide attacker, can be more like an inside forward and attack the box. Whereas when you don't have a natural player playing on their right, on the correct side for them, it means that the winger has to stay wider, and that doesn't quite work in the way necessarily the team wants to play. So if you look at United on the right, you've got Wan-Bissaka and Mason Greenwood. And Mason Greenwood wants to attack the box. He wants to come inside. He wants to get a shot off. He wants to score goals. But in order for that to work as well as you would want it to work, you need a fullback who is going to be able to get down the wing and stay wide and put crosses in. That's not what Wan-Bissaka has improved in that aspect, and he looked like he was improving quite significantly until he started to look very tired. But I think one of the reasons United are so keen to sign a right winger is for that reason, is because on that side they don't have a fullback who is as comfortable crossing. And ultimately, the way that United play, the way the balance of the team works, is that they play with two attacking midfield players, Pogba and Fernandes. And that means that the defenders need to be able to defend one-on-one. And the most important quality of those defenders is the defending. It's the ability to defend one-on-one. So you look at Liverpool's fullbacks, for example, and because Liverpool have play with three athletes in midfield whose main job is to basically run up and down, run the legs off the opposition, rather than supply the attacking quality, it means they can keep their fullbacks high and wide, and their wide attackers can attack the box to score goals in the way that we see. The balance of United's team is slightly different. So what they need fullbacks who can defend one-on-one, but it's also really important that they have a player who can keep the width on the left. So he can keep the width on the left because the guy who's really good at defending one-on-one who plays on the right is not as comfortable as an attacking force from the touchline.
Daniel, do United need to buy someone at right back as well? You mentioned how tired Wan-Bissaka was. He played a lot of football in the season just gone. And in the games when he wasn't there, whether it was Fonsu Mensah or other players stepping in, they lost a lot on the right-hand side when Wan-Bissaka wasn't around. I think they probably need to sign someone.
I'm not sure they need to buy someone, and I'll tell you why. Because number one, Brandon Williams, although he is a left-back, he's right-footed. So it seems unlikely that he would not be able to be a deputy for Wan-Bissaka. And also, there's a kid coming through now who's just behind Brandon Williams, who's called Ethan Laird. And he I think he will be a better fullback than Brandon Williams, and he might be a better fullback than Aaron Wan-Bissaka as well. And I wouldn't be surprised if at some point Wan-Bissaka moved to centre-back, because Laird is a better attacker than him, and also a really good defender. I'll tell you, I was talking a while ago to I've forgotten who I was talking to now, but I was talking to someone who has been watching. I'll tell you who I was talking to. I was talking to Jimmy Murphy Jr., who is the son of Jimmy Murphy, who was Matt Busby's assistant, who's been watching United's youth team for 50 years. It doesn't mean he necessarily has a better eye for a player than someone else, although he's definitely someone to whom I would listen. And he was saying that when he followed United's youth team to Liverpool, and this, bear in mind, this is a youth team that had Mason Greenwood in it, the Liverpool coaches were saying that Ethan Laird is the best of that crop of young players. So I think they have really high hopes for him. I wouldn't be surprised to see him start breaking into the first team this season. And I would be surprised if United signed a deputy right-back to go in front of him, because he is a serious talent.
That is fairly high praise. And maybe Aaron Wan-Bissaka turning into a full-back is exactly the right thing, where he's come through, he's played a lot of football at right-back, understands what the right-back wants, but actually, you know, listening to you and watching him, the best thing about him is his defending. So all of a sudden you've got that pace, and it gives you the opportunity to do loads of other constellations. We're way behind where we're supposed to be in terms of time, so let's fly through the midfield. The midfield is fairly obvious in that this is let's assume, are we assuming it's a duo with, or is it actually a trio? Tell me how many midfielders am I going to pick here? It's three.
I mean, it's Pogba, Fernandes, and one more. I think it's interesting that we saw Fred playing in the last couple of Europa League games, not Matic, which suggests that Solskjaer is not quite happy with the difference between Fred and Matic is legs and the ability to look forward, pass through the lines quickly, and to carry the ball. I don't think Fred is as good a player, is as good at that as United would want to have, but it doesn't look like they're going to find someone better. So it looked for a little while like Solskjaer had settled on Matic as that player, but I personally am happier with Fred doing it, because I think that United should be good enough in most games to play the attack, to play the player who gives them more going forward, and that is definitely Fred, not Matic.
So it's Fernandes and Pogba, and then it's Fred, and then Matic, and then after that McTominay.
Yeah, the problem with McTominay is, so the way that United play at the moment, they're playing more of a 4-2-3-1 than a 4-3-3. And if you play and McTominay's main quality is his running, and in that he's more similar, he would fit better currently into the midfield that Liverpool play than into the midfield that United play. I would much prefer United to play a 4-3-3 with Fernandes mainly attacking, and then and Pogba playing box to box with another player playing box to box. But the way they're doing it at the moment is they're playing someone who does more sitting, and also Pogba, I think, is doing more sitting than he should be doing. I want Pogba much nearer to the opposition box more often. But the way they're doing it at the moment is you've got a sitter and then Pogba, who is doing quite a lot of sitting as well. But yeah, I mean, that's the way it looks.
Yeah, okay. And then after that, it's a mix of Pereira, Mata, and Lingard if they're all still at the club next season.
Yeah, I'm sure. Like, I think they probably wants Mata to stay. I'm sure he'd sell the other two if he could.
Okay, the forwards: Rashford, Martial, Greenwood. That's the depth chart in terms of the front three at the moment.
Yes, I mean, United need another player. Partly they need another player because it's good just because you need options. Fergie's best sides all had options. City have loads of options, and when you're not winning a game, you want to do something different to challenge the opposition that would be different from what they've been dealing with for the past 70 minutes. And then you bring on someone really good and fresh, and to confront tired legs and tired minds. That is the kind of thing that wins you games that might otherwise be drawn, or gets you points when you might get beat. So they obviously want Jadon Sancho. Whether they're prepared to spend the money on Jadon Sancho, it's impossible to say. Ideally, I think they want two more attackers, but I mean, if they get one attacker, that would be worth having.
Is Daniel James up to it?
I'm not sure. I find the hatred that Daniel James gets quite odd. because without him, United would have had a big problem earlier in the season. Also, he played really well against Liverpool. He played really well away to City, games that United did well in. And he's definitely someone I would want to bring on if United were defending a narrow lead. He was used more than they wanted him to be used. And I think the other thing is that as I said about Bailly, Daniel James is really young in football years. He's got a lot of improving to do, and he needs to be given time. Ultimately, he was bought as a punt anyhow, with the spare change down the back of the sofa. They had 15 million quid that they could spend, so they punted it on someone that they thought could make a difference to the squad. And Daniel James has already made a difference to the squad. He made a difference to the squad at the beginning of the season and mainly in the first part of the season. So he's not someone I would want to be my first change, but that doesn't mean I don't see in him the ability to improve to become better than that. And he's certainly someone I think is worth having in the squad to get better. Spending
the money on the loan deal for Odi Nagalo at the time was like, oh, this is just a body to flesh things out. But actually, you know, in that team, as a replacement 9, as somebody who can actually give Martial a relief, it makes sense. But long term, it's obviously not an option. Do they need to replace him as well? Like, are they actually looking for a number of bodies here?
Well, he's only there till January anyhow. I'm sure they would prefer to have another centre forward. I think that I was surprised that we didn't see him when United needed the goal against Sevilla, because just at that point, it's just when there's 10 minutes to go. Or I think he came on with 10 minutes to go, but slightly earlier, because it's just a slightly different option. Someone who can hold up the ball. I mean, Martial can do that, but if Igalo's holding up the ball, Martial can run in behind and vice versa. The fact that he didn't come on suggests that Solskjaer doesn't think he's that good. I mean, no one thinks he's that good, but the move worked really well at the beginning.
Yeah.
Slightly surprised not to see a little bit more of him when United were chasing goals subsequently, but he's only there till January anyhow. So yeah, I'm sure they would like another centre forward, but it's probably not the priority, because they've got Rashford who can cover at centre forward. They've got Greenwood who can cover at centre forward. So if they get another wide player who can cover both flanks, then you've got a pool that should be able to wear an injury. Definitely wouldn't be able to wear 2 injuries, though.
Yeah, for sure.
Daniel, if they want something different, I mean, Edinson Cavani is available since he left PSG. I know he's getting on in years now, but has still been scoring all the goals in the last few years. Thiago Silva's going to Chelsea. Could this be an option just to bring him in short term for a year or two, just while these players get a bit more experience in the front three?
It's the same as when it seemed like they were going to try and sign Mario Mandzukic a couple of summers ago. I wouldn't object to that. I think the problem would be the amount of wages he'd have to pay Cavani, and perhaps how much he would want to play. At this stage of his career, he might think, well, actually he wants to play as many games as possible rather than to be the bloke who you bring on when you're in trouble. I'm not sure.
Daniel, good stuff. Thanks a million.
No, I'll see you in a minute.